All right. Well, hello and welcome to Bridging the Gap. And I'm here today with Jami Moore, who's from Clinton, Massachusetts. Hey, Jami.
Hello.
Hey, so excited to have you here. You are working on some really fantastic projects. Like we were just talking as we got started, like a bigger than an ERP project, right?
Yeah.
And also just recently participated in our session of the Business Analyst Blueprint. And so wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and the exciting things that you're doing in your career.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
if you can kind of just take us back to where you were, like before you started the Blueprint. I know, like we've talked a little bit, you were doing business analysis for a while. Kind of, if you can share how you got into it and where you were in your career before you started the program, that'd be great.
Sure. So maybe I should go a little bit further back than that. So back in 2013, I decided as an administrative assistant that I wanted to be a business analyst, something that people had said to me frequently that I was, but had no real understanding of what that was. And so when I made that determination that I wanted to do it, I was working for a medical device company and worked for 2 years to actually prove that I could do the business analyst role and do the work. And was offered a great opportunity to move over to our IT group as a business analyst, introductory business analyst, for 6 months while I proved that I could actually do the work of a BA. Spent about 3 years there working as a Salesforce business analyst. So very highly focused on that, but also doing some smaller projects as well outside of just being that. Last September, I actually moved to a new company, still within the medical device realm, but more focused on diabetes. So it's an insulin pump company. And as part of that, got promoted to a senior BA role. And my focus really was around helping to solution and manage all of our technology for our customers from a customer portal perspective. And so we called that our customer experience technology group, which I am still a part of, which I love. And as part of that, had decided that I also wanted to take some additional training. I had been taking business analyst training for quite a while, but wanted a more structured and extended training because most of what I was doing was 1 or 2 day trainings just to kind of get myself familiar with some of the skill sets that a BA needs, and talked with my boss and said, listen, whether you pay for this or not, I'm doing this. So got him and his manager, who is the vice president, on board to actually pay for it. And just as I signed up for the Blueprint, got the opportunity to go over to a very large program within the company as part of a strategic initiative to help reimagine our entire customer experience. And what that means is looking at all of our customer interactions, not only from when they are an actual customer, but starting from the point of they're not just yet a customer, they are considered potentially a lead, all the way through to them making it into our customer funnel and further on into our product support funnels as well. And so it's very big, it's very expansive, it is global. So we are not doing this just for the US, but we're doing it for everyone around the world as part of that program. And so took that and ran with it while in the Blueprint.
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like such a phenomenal project. Like, I mean, it's not even a project, right? It's a program that must have multiple projects within it. Like, what does your day-to-day look like when you're working on something that huge?
Lots and lots and lots and lots of meetings. We typically start, for the US team, we're typically starting our day right around between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. on the East Coast time, meeting with our global process owners and various business stakeholders and technical teams to talk through, in this first phase, we're calling it our discovery phase, to really talk through our business processes and map those all out at a high level so that we can understand where we're going to need to dive much deeper, understand where the gaps are, and at the same time, for the technical BAs that are on our team, also doing research around potential solutions for capabilities that are being identified during those process mapping sessions, as well as putting together demos of those potential solutions. So a lot of my time was spent pulling together Salesforce demos, because that's what I focus on. So I got to get my hands dirty in technology and doing coding and configuration, which was really very interesting for me. But that's a lot of my time, is just talking with business partners, doing a lot of research, understanding the different technologies that are out there, so that I can answer questions as they come up.
So still a fair amount of detailed work, but you're doing that detailed work to really facilitate really big picture decision making, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is
Absolutely.
this is still in its pretty initial phases, right? You said you just started this at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have actually just wrapped up our discovery phase. So we'll be going into a more detailed requirements phase, to really understand whether or not what we've pre-identified as some potential solutions and applications, integrations, are going to really meet the need for our business partners and our customers. Because we are, unlike a lot of medical device companies, we interact with our customers one-on-one. A lot of med device companies are, their customers are more of hospitals and doctors and physicians, and we are interacting with individual people who are working to get our product in their hands. It's life-saving technology for them, because, you know, diabetics, they need insulin every single day. It's a non-negotiable for them. And so we have a different focus on what we need to build and how functional and easy it needs to be for our end users to actually use all of our stuff and interact with us.
Right. So it's really like a B2C, like the consumer, business to consumer.
We have exactly. We have a huge B2C model, but we still do B2B as well. So that business to business, we do that as well. It's just a much smaller subset.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I feel like we could talk about that for ages. But I also wanted to you mentioned, like, I'm doing the blueprint, like whether my boss pays, like what was really prompting you at that point in your career to say, this is the time to do something like this?
Yeah, so I had actually been looking at the blueprint for several years, wanting to do it. In my previous company and role, while we did have training, there was not a lot of structure for the business analyst group. There was a lot of structure and a lot of planning for our project managers, but when it came to the BA group, we were always stumbling along trying to figure out the best ways to do things, the best techniques to use. They were a company that is highly regulated by the FDA, as most companies are, and so a lot of their documentation was based around validating systems, but it wasn't BA friendly. It was really driven more from a project management standpoint. And I really wanted to understand how we could not only drive the right pieces of work that we were doing, but also make sure that the documentation aligned with that, so that we could speed up all of our projects as we were talking with all of our business partners. And so as that, I just said, okay, I need to understand from a more structured and industry standard methodology, how do we do this? Especially given that, you know, I'm very much a proponent of IIBA and want to get certified. And so I wanted to make sure that I could start to align my skill set and the things that I knew to prepare me to do that certification.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what was your experience with the program like?
I loved it. I was actually just talking to someone else this morning and highly recommended it. It was a great program in that it definitely challenges you, and I enjoy having that challenge and getting pushed to not take the easy path. Even in moments where I was just really frustrated, because in some ways I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when I'm working on something, I really want it to be right at the first pass, rock solid and ready to go. And so having people who are other BAs in the industry really take a look at what I was working on, helping me to understand those skill sets and the pieces that I needed, and really kind of looking at it through a finer lens to help me get better was just phenomenal. So I am such a proponent of, hey, take this training. If you're struggling to understand how the pieces fit together, take this training, because it really helps solidify how I can move my entire projects and other pieces along that path to make sure that we're doing the right things, we're getting the right requirements, and can help our business partners provide right solutions.
Yeah, so what's an example? Like, could you share one of the examples from any one of the modules and how you applied it to this particular project? That'd be
Sure,
interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll go with the use case scenario, actually. We were, during the program, identifying pieces of Salesforce that we would need. We are on an older version of Salesforce, and so we know that we're going to be upgrading to the newest version. And one of the things that we've struggled with a little bit is going to that business to consumer model with outdated code that just doesn't have that kind of flexibility for us. And so one of the things we decided that we were going to use, or at least demo to make decisions around whether we were going to use it or not, was Salesforce's person account, which really is built for that business to consumer model when you're talking about accounts as a whole. And so in that, I was able to put together a use case that helped the business partners understand how we could build out a person account and all of the pieces that would need to happen from the user perspective. So a user does something, the system responds, the user does something else, the system responds, to help them understand the flow of even how standard operating pieces of Salesforce work. And had business partners going, I've never ever seen it done this way, and this is fantastic. And it also helped me to build a presentation that I did to our architect team to help them get up to speed on person accounts, and subsequently executives at the higher IT levels to also understand why person accounts was the right business model for us to go with when we get to building the new environment.
Wow, so you're really able to validate that you had a solution approach that was going to work. Yeah, and had you done use cases before?
No, I had not.
That's a whole new skill, yeah.
It was all new, and I had wanted to, and I tried to kind of learn it on my own, but it wasn't making sense. And I think that's really what it helped clarify, was how to really make it work for somebody who really needs to dive a little bit deeper in the requirements than just a process flow.
Mm-hmm. And what was the piece that helped you? Like you said, you tried it before. Was it the training modules or the instructors? Like, how did that, what was the piece of the program that helped you kind of break through that gap?
I would say it was definitely the module that was shared. So your videos that you shared to help walk us through. I had tried reading various different blogs and tutorials around it, and it just wasn't really resonating with me on how I could use it. And I think for me, a lot of the use cases that come up are around things like banking models or, student registrations. And we're not a retail type of company. And so I was struggling a lot because it just wasn't resonating from a scenario perspective of how we could actually use it in those manners.
Yeah, gotcha. That's awesome. So I know one of the things you mentioned was being a perfectionist, right? And having to overcome some of the feedback. I know it's one of we talk about this internally about this part of the program. Like we would love to just send everything back. Yeah, you're laughing. So do you have anything else to share about that, of the actual process? Because I think some people who join are a little bit scared about the idea of receiving feedback, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, feedback helps you grow, but it's also something that we can kind of shy away from for various reasons.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say, it's great because you guys take the time to really look through it, really try to understand it, reach out to us if there is a question specifically about something we did that it's just not understanding. Very rare that that happens, but with the instructor hours, it really kind of helped us get through those pieces. And so I think that was very helpful, especially when the workbook would come back with comments around what specific questions they had or what specific pieces they felt didn't exactly meet the criteria, and give some guidance at the same time. For me, I know I had to take a lot of deep breaths on those moments where I got my workbook back and it was like, congratulations, we reviewed your workbook. You have some work to do. But just like you were mentioning, one of the things that I've always gone into with any of my bosses or anything that I'm doing is I always ask for feedback, because I can't grow if I don't have that feedback. And I don't know where I'm going wrong if I don't have that feedback. So after the initial shock and taking the deep breath, I would then take a moment, take some time, I should say, sit down and really read through the comments and understand where they were trying to get through. And I think that's the part that is hard for people when they're just reading it in the moment, where they haven't really sat down or scheduled some time to really sit down and look through it. They're just kind of, oh, I got my workbook back. Okay. I would advise, take some time, schedule like 30 minutes and take some time and really read through it, jot down your questions or your notes to kind of spark what might be bothering you or what might be worrying you in what you did, and then take those to the instructor hour to talk through, because that'll help build not only your confidence in what you're doing, but help you understand kind of what people are going to expect from your business internally, because they're not going to know as much. And if you can provide even more detail and catch yourself when they are giving you feedback to take that moment, it helps communication, it helps team building, it helps all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great feedback. That's great feedback on our feedback. Thank you. Oh boy, this gets circular. So just to change kind of directions, thank you for all of that input on the program, and you're sharing your details of the program. Like, back to you and your career, like, what do you see next for you? Like, obviously you're in the middle of a huge initiative, so you might not know, but I also know
Yeah.
you're a bit of a planner, right?
I am a planner. So and speaking of planning, yes, I actually have a spreadsheet that I plan out all of my goals, not just career-wise, but personal goals. For, I think this time around I did 6 years, and I need to back that down just a little bit. But typically 3 to 5 years I do plans. And so from a career perspective, I always knew that I want to go to the architect level, and that's my next move. And so what I'm hoping is that as part of this program, and this is a multi-year program, it's not just going to be a 6 month or a year. This is 3 to 5 year program that we're going to be investing in. That will help me get to that next level as I build my skill set, as I start to work through all of the different pieces. And we have been talking about creating a center of excellence and having members of the program on that center of excellence. So my career path, I see my next step is an architect level, or what we call a lead. And then I'm not so sure after that.
And do you mean like technical architect or business architect? Like, you want to go more technical?
I would love to be a combination of both, because I do tend to I do a lot of technical, but I'm realizing more and more lately that I'm always watching out for the business more often than I am the technical pieces. And so I think I would love to do a combination of both, where I am still an IT architect, but I am focused with the business to make sure that they're getting the right solutions that they need.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I feel like you were going in another path before I clarified that.
Oh,
yeah.
well, I think about things all the time, and I'm always thinking about where do I want to go next. And so I know you and I have talked before about like consulting, and I have plans, future plans that might be kind of a retirement thing where I can take that on and have a comfortable retirement. But I also don't downplay anything, right? I'm always looking at opportunities. I'm always looking at what might be my next move and thinking through it, and not saying no to anything or any opportunity that might come up, even in those moments where I really want to say no and have a lot of hesitation, but take a step back and look at it and figure out if it's the right move for me or not.
Yeah. And for people looking to either move like you did from administrative assistant to business analysis, or maybe there's like two questions here. I think I always like to ask, what would you advise to people following in your footsteps? And I think we might have people listening who are like, I'm an administrative assistant now and I want to move into BA. And then we'll have people listening who like, this is like the coolest project I've ever heard of. Like, what would you advise to get into that project? So maybe we can talk probably different steps. Right? What would you advise people looking to follow and achieve some of those goals that you have?
Yeah. So I'll take the first one. For moving into a BA role as an admin, one of the first things that I did was look at what BA skills would I need and what skills matched what I was already doing. As an administrative assistant, I was actually doing a lot of event planning and project management, but I was recognizing that some of the side projects that I was doing within the company were much more BA focused, talking to business stakeholders about requirements, about things that we were going to be doing. And even in those event planning meetings, utilizing that skill set to understand what we really needed. And so I went searching to figure out how to write my resume in a manner that would indicate, even as an admin, I was a BA. Stumbled on your website, and really started to dive a little bit deeper. And so I would say the things that really helped me to make that transition were accepting shadow opportunities. So shadowing a BA if I could. I actually signed up for a hackathon that my company ran and signed up as a business analyst. So advice: make friends with the IT people if that's where you want to be, because they're typically the ones that run those, and will pass on that information when it comes up. And then the other thing is volunteer to do stretch assignments within the company. And it is in addition to your regular job, so make sure that you are willing to take that on and understand that it can be a lot more work, and that you're doing it for yourself, because really you're doing this for yourself to make sure you can advance your career. And then have not only a mentor, but a sponsor, because the sponsor is really what helped me to make that transition. My boss at the time was my sponsor and went and talked to the CIO of our IT group to make that offer to get me over there. So you really need to have a mentor who's going to help you with the skill sets that you need and help you grow, and have somebody to bounce questions and ideas off of. But that sponsor is the person who is going to help you understand what your personal branding is and how you're being perceived by others, and make the necessary changes or shifts in your own personality at times to help you get to that next level, and be the one who will be sitting in the meetings with management going, yeah, this name, we need to talk about this name here.
Kind of helps pave the path for you as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then how about getting on something like a global customer experience program, right? Like a multi-year initiative.
Yeah. So I would say some of the same things apply, right? If you can volunteer for a stretch assignment, absolutely do it. If you definitely continue to have mentors and sponsors, and then really express interest during those reviews where you have with your boss about what you see as your career goals and your career path, and express interest that you want to be on bigger programs, and work with them to start to build out what your annual plan will look like to start to move you in that direction, things you can work on throughout that year to start to get there. I kind of lucked out with this one. We are a corporation, but we run more like a startup. And so we have, at the time we were kind of a smaller group. We didn't have a lot of resources. And when they were looking at it, my name came up as someone that they were seeing as a leader within the company, because I was helping other business analysts who were, I don't want to call them junior because they really aren't junior, but lower level business analysts, mentoring them, helping them to understand ways to really kind of advance their career, and also talking with business stakeholders, helping them on their projects and helping them drive those conversations with the business stakeholders while running my own projects as well, and helping them to understand who I was and how I operate. Really just kind of, it was almost like a no-brainer at that point that they went, oh yeah, we really need her. We really need Jami on this one.
So you called it luck, but then you identified the actual actions that you had taken.
So
I just want to say,
I
I know.
Well,
just for anyone listening, it's not,
yeah.
there is a being in the right place at the right time, but there are also ways that you were definitely stepping up and showing yourself ready for that role.
Absolutely. It was it's part of the ending, the way they kind of made the decision was, who can we leave on our team to keep the lights on and the business running, and who can we pull to go into this new program. And I just happened to be new enough to the company that I wasn't familiar or deeply ingrained in the old system and the old processes and ways that they could shift me over and help them get a new set of eyes on doing all of this, because that's really what was needed, was to break out of the old ways of doing things and see things in a different light.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you've been incredibly generous with your time, and your story is so inspiring. So thank you for sharing it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close things today?
Oh, that's a good question. I could share so much. I could talk forever. I would say definitely, if you're interested, definitely keep pushing at it, because even when you're in a company that might not necessarily recognize it, opportunities come up all the time, and don't be afraid to take the step to move away from your company if you need to advance your career. I think that's the most scary part for a lot of us, is having been in a company for a long time. I was with my previous company for a very long time. Don't be afraid to make those moves, because you will find when you do that, it builds your confidence, it builds your leadership skills, and I love where I am now. I absolutely love it. I'm so glad I made the step. And so I would say, my mother tells me all the time that fear is false emotions appearing real. When you realize that or recognize that, it helps you to make that next move, because you can push through.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to highlight the piece, like, you did say you got this opportunity for this big program because you were newer, right? I think we can get so entrenched in the value of our expertise, but that can actually, in a way, hold us back as well. So that was part of that. And I just wanted to connect that dot for anyone listening and might still have that, but I don't want to move, right? So it actually is what opened up this next opportunity too. Well, thank you so much for that, Jami. And it's been wonderful having you part of the program and part of our community. And thank you for sharing everything today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.